So let's continue going through this table of questions for review and testing. Yani, so that we can be so thoroughly able to dissect a Wahhabi like a surgeon, insha'Allah ta'ala. Question 33. If someone verbally denies that God has a body, how can we accuse him of otherwise? Very good question. Someone would say, yeah, that's called putting words in my mouth. I didn't say Allah has a body. You accuse me of that, and I say he's not a body. That goes back to an important case that the scholars spoke about, which is the case called Lazimul Madhab. Lazim al-madhab. That means the implication of your opinion. The implication of your opinion. Lazim al-madhab. Yani, what does implication mean? Implication means what you're not saying. The insinuation, what you're not saying. So what's the judgment of what you insinuate without saying it actually? There is a judgment for your insinuation. You can't get away with that. So there's a case that the scholars agree about. And there's an amount that the scholars differ about. So let's go right to what the scholars agree about here. What the scholars agree about is lazimul madhhabi madhhabun idha kana bayyina. The insinuation of your way, your madhhab, your opinion. The insinuation of your opinion, it is your opinion when that insinuation is obvious. When the insinuation is obvious. Yani, when you have a clear connotation. A clear connotation. Yani. So, for example, if a person says, Allah sits on the throne, and then you said to him, that's blasphemy. And then he says to you, how could that be blasphemy? That's in the Qur'an. And then you say to him, that's not in the Qur'an, and it's blasphemy because you're saying Allah is a body. And then he says, I didn't say Allah is a body. You're putting words in my mouth. So we say, no, you didn't say it. That's true. But you insinuated that he's a body with an obvious insinuation. So he might say, how's that? You say to him, because you said he's sitting. And sitting means he's a body. So he might say, well, we don't know how he's sitting. So he still means he's a body. Tell him, he might say to you, why, if you don't know how he's sitting, then why does it mean he's a body? Tell him, because that's what sitting means. Now, let's make a quick disclaimer here. We're talking about here from the Arabic word julus in particular, not the English word sitting per se. But let's assume that the word sitting in English works exactly like the word julus in Arabic. So I'm just going to say sitting. Or even qu'ud. Some say qu'ud means to sit down, and julus means to sit up. And some say they mean the same. Sitting. So this means in Arabic something that has a body, an upper part and a lower part, and folding parts, and the lower part landed. That's sitting. That's julus, yani. Or qu'ud. So let's assume sitting means like that. Yani, in other words, you don't say, for example, or if sitting means like that, then you wouldn't say, this cup sits on the table, because it doesn't have folding parts. Or you wouldn't say, this pen sits on the table. So that's what we mean by sitting here. Julus. So the Wahhabi says to you, Allah is jalis. He's sitting, with this meaning. So you said to him, that's blasphemy, because you're saying Allah has a body. And then he says, I didn't say Allah has a body. And you say, but you said he's sitting. Jalis. Or qa'id. So you might say, I still didn't say he's a body though. Tell him, yeah, but you are insinuating that. Heavily. Quite obviously, you are insinuating that he's a body. He would say, how's that? You tell him, because that's what sitting means. That's what the word means. So, in other words, we're not going to let you just dance around the word and just not say it and then act like we're morons and then let you get away with that. Or like we're cowards and we don't want to call you out for your mistake there. So, لازم المذهب مذهب إذا كان بينا. The insinuation of your position or your opinion, it is your opinion. It is your position, that insinuation that you're not saying, as long as it's obvious. So if you total all of what the Wahhabis say, when they say, he is over the throne, really, and he really descends down at a particular time of night, and he really has two hands and really holds things and really has a foot and a real shin and cast a real shadow, and he will really put his foot in hell, etc., etc. So then you can't let him turn around after that and tell you, but I didn't say he's a body though. Then you're going to let him play you for the fool. You'll be a fool. So someone might say, so you say the scholars differed about this issue here? Yeah, they have some variance in here. But this is what they agreed about. No difference here. لازم المذهب مذهب إذا كان بينا. The implication of your madhab is your madhab, if it's obvious. You said when they say God has hands but not like the creation, then they go on to say, does not the clock has hands? Does it not? What is the correct way to respond? Say to him, yeah, the clock has hands. So what do you think he'll say? You said the clock is a body and occupies space. That's also a way to answer, yes. But let's go this way really quick, though. That's a very good answer, too, by the way. No problem there. And also, clock hand is metaphor. Correct, also. But here's a way. What have you said? So he said to you, doesn't the clock have hands? So you say, because really that's a yes or no question. So if we're going to answer the question the way he posed it, then the answer is yes. Yani. Unless you want to say no, because it's not literal. But that's going to take you away. Yeah, it does. So what do you think he'll say? I know what I suppose he will say. What do you think he'd say? And I'll tell you if I agree with you. He says to you, doesn't the clock have hands? So you just give him a simple, yes, it does. So now what? Tayyib, I don't know if you have an answer to type for me. He'll say, is it the same as ours? Exactly. That's what he's going to say. He will say he got you. Yeah, he will say, is it the same as ours? That's what he's going to say. So right there you can say, yes, it is. It is. So he's going to say, how's the same? Then you're going to say, like the brother's answer right there. Because the clock is a body, occupies a space. Now what's he going to say? Now he might say, but doesn't have fingers. Say, yeah, that's true. Still, though, it's like mine. It is like mine. So because he thinks you're going to say it's not like yours. So here's his mistake. What he's basically saying is, well, human hand, it's not like a clock hand. So you could extend that and you could say, if you wanted to go that way, you could say, human hand is not like a squirrel hand, and that squirrel hand is not like a monkey hand, and a monkey hand is not like a sloth hand, and a sloth hand is not like a koala bear hand, and a koala hand that's not like a crab hand, and the crab hand is not like a bird hand, which is a wing, and the crab hand is a claw, and so, etc., etc. So, and not like Allah's hand. That's really what he's getting at. Not like Allah's hand. The question in itself means he's likening Allah to his creations. You're welcome. That's kufr. Wal-'iyadhu billahi ta'ala. Huh. So someone might say, okay, well, can you tell me how they differed? I just am curious. Okay. Briefly. So some scholars, they said, lazimul madhhabi laysa bimadhhab. The insinuation of one's opinion is not his opinion. But what they meant was, if it's not obvious, then we can't hold it against him. That's what they meant. If it's not obvious, we're not going to hold it against him. He has an insinuation in his opinion, but it's not obvious, so we're not going to hold it against him and say it really is his position. So they're not disagreeing here. It's just that it's like this is the way they will say it. They will say, as a rule, just because somebody said something that insinuates something doesn't mean he believes in that insinuation. So yeah, that's true. But stronger way, and what they agree about is, but it is what he goes by if it's obvious, though. And there's even another position. It's stricter. Lazimul madhhabi madhhab. The implication of your opinion, it is your opinion. That's stricter. Because that's going to mean that if the implication of what you say is kufr, then you fell into kufr, even if you didn't realize the implication. And even if it's not obvious implication too. Even if it's not obvious. What's an example of not obvious implication? And this is an important case for you, so take hold of it, insha'Allah ta'ala. An example of an obscure implication, not obvious, is the case of a person who says that it is impossible that Allah be seen. Because when he takes this position, then really the implication is that Allah does not exist. So when he says that it's impossible that Allah could be seen, it's like he's saying Allah does not exist. But does he really believe that Allah does not exist, this one who believes that it's impossible that he could be seen? Actually, he doesn't. And he never even realized that what he's saying leads there. Goes there. So, then what's his judgment? If you say the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, if it's obvious, then we're going to say it's not his opinion that God doesn't exist when he says that God can't be seen. Because that's not obvious. It is the case, though, but it's not obvious. Needs pondering. So we're not going to hold it to him. What he said leads to atheism and blasphemy, but we're not going to hold it against him that he is really that, or that he has that judgment. And if you say, lazimul-madhhabi laysa bi-madhhab, the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion, that goes here. Because they mean, when it's not obvious, he didn't realize that he's really denying Allah's existence. He's still sinful too, for taking a wrong belief. But if you say, lazimul madhhabi madhhab, the implication of one's opinion, it is his opinion. He has the judgment. It's confirmed for him. Then you're going to say, this is blasphemy. To say that Allah can't be seen. That's blasphemy. What we learned is to say it's not blasphemy to say Allah can't be seen because it's not obvious that he's denying the existence of Allah. But it's haram, major sin, deviance. So, if someone verbally denies that God has a body or is a body, he says, God is not a body, so he denies it. How can we accuse him of otherwise? Say, you still believe that he is, though. If what he says is an obvious insinuation. Moving right along here. If you have a question, go ahead. You said, what if he says God cannot be seen with the mortal eye? Does this clarify his stance? No, because that's not what we're saying. Can you tell me, by the way, what did I say before I repeat myself? I'm just curious if you got what I said. Yeah, cannot be. At all. That it's impossible. That's his creed. This is the one we're talking about. Otherwise, if he's just saying he can't be seen with the mortal eye, he's agreeing with us. So why would he say Allah can't be seen? Like, if that's really what he was believing, there's no argument. Even if he says Allah can't be seen, let's say he just says that, and he means with the mortal eye. But once we say, but he can be seen, in the afterlife he'll be seen, the believers will see him with their eyes, with their immortal eyes. He will say, yes, he will be seen with the immortal eyes. So then there's no argument. So that's not what they're saying. Yes, Allah will be seen without a how and without a where. Correct. He will be seen unlike the creation is seen. Next question. Question 34. Is it not correct that Allah will be seen? So, looks like that's where the answer was there. It is correct that Allah will be seen. Yes, that's correct. But you need to understand the reason for the question. He does believe, this Wahhabi, he believes that God will be seen. We believe that Allah will be seen. Why would he ask you this question? Don't you believe that Allah will be seen? Isn't it true? Isn't it correct that Allah will be seen? Yeah, it is. So, but why is he asking this question? Because when he hears how you believe, you're going to wipe his imagination away. He had really been imagining something all this time. He doesn't even know. He's a kafir, really. Wahhabis a kafir. Even if he has a beard and kufi, long beard, prostration mark on his head, everything. His pants are over his ankles. He has a vest. Whatever you want. He has siwak in his pocket. Okay? And all this time he's been imagining something. And then when you tell him, Allah, He has no shape and no form. He exists without place and without a direction. He would say to you, huh? Like, because that doesn't comply with what he's been imagining all this time. So he says, don't you believe that Allah will be seen? It's like he's saying, how could what you just said be even seen? Because you didn't describe anything, Yani, anything created. So that question itself from a Wahhabi is a proof that they really worship their imaginations. But they don't realize it. And there's no nur in their face. That's true. I wanted to say that too right now. Wallahi, Yani, I wanted to say he has prostration mark, big beard, everything, a vest, pants above his ankles, but there's no light in his face. It's dark. His face is dark. Those Wahhabis, if they see somebody with light in his face, they don't like him. They know he's not one of them when they see light in his face. Yeah, a lot of them are ugly. That's true. That's true. Ugly Wahhabis. Subhanallah. I saw two guys. There's a lot of Wahhabis around here too. I saw two guys. They were dressed like Muslims. So, yeah, I gave them salam. And I looked at both of their faces. I said, Subhanallah. I hope those guys aren't Wahhabis. Because they didn't look good at all. Subhanallah. May Allah protect us. So yes, it is correct that Allah will be seen. But it's not correct that He's a body with a shape and a form. It's not correct to say you'll be standing in front of Him in a literal sense. You're going to see His real face. He's going to smile at you. That's blasphemy. That's paganism. That's Christianity. Question 35. What if the Wahhabi says, I do not want your intellect. Give me some Qur'an. Okay. That's easy. So give him laysa, ka-mithli-hi, shay. Nothing is like him in any way. Yani, that's your most basic proof. That's the proof that the scholars all use all the time. Laysa ka-mithli-hi, shay. You give him laysa ka-mithli-hi, shay. And there are plenty of other ayats in the Qur'an. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ and others. Pick one and stick to it. laysa ka-mithli-hi shay is sufficient. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ, that's sufficient. There are more. Yani, I don't suggest you go past these. Question 36. What if he claims that it's not permissible to say laysa ka-mithli-hi shay and then stop? Which means nothing is like him in any way. They say, you're not even reciting the whole ayah. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ and He is the hearer, He is the seer. And what does He mean by that? He means to tell you, look, even the Qur'an likens Allah to the creations. He's not going to say it like that though. Because what He's saying is, look, you're trying to avoid that Allah has like the creations and it's right there in the Qur'an. Why are you stopping there? Laysa ka-mithli-hi shay. Tell him you can stop there. There's nothing wrong with stopping there. The scholars have always stopped there. If you look into the books of the scholars, they always stop there. You're just saying this now because you're deviant. This argument is the argument of a deviant. Even Ibn Taymiyyah would just say this amount of the ayah. Laysa ka-mithli-hi, shay. All of them always did. So, and even in some mushafs, if you look in there, you'll see a symbol over the word shay that tells you can stop there. So then, while we're here, take a benefit. Laysa ka-mithli-hi, shay. Nothing is whatsoever like him. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. And he is the hearer, the seer. First, Allah informs us that he has no similarity or comparison. But so that you would not get the wrong impression that he does not have attributes, he confirmed that he has attributes. So he said, وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. He's the hearer, the seer. And since he just informed that nothing is like him, then it is known that his attributes are unlike the attributes of the creations. And so then, his hearing and sight are without eyes, without ears, without the need of light or sound waves or the likes of those created things. What about كَانَ اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْءٌ غَيْرُهُ? That's a hadith. So here we're actually, if you see the heading we have here, proof from the Qur'an. So we didn't get to the hadith yet. He says, I don't want your intellect. Give me some Qur'an. Then you can't give him كَانَ اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْءٌ غَيْرُهُ. That's a hadith. Yani, you could give it to him, but you wouldn't be fulfilling his request. So, if he says, give me an ayah, then you tell him, laysa ka-mithli-hi shay. Or you tell him, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ. If you gave him laysa ka-mithli-hi shay, and he told you, you can't stop there, tell him, yes, you can stop there. Absolutely, you can. That's a lie. You won't even, you can't even produce a scholar who said you can't. And if he happened to produce a scholar who says, someone who he thinks is a scholar, who says, you can't stop at laysa ka-mithli-hi shay, it's probably going to be someone from this time, like Ibn Uthaymeen, or Al-Albani, or someone very ignorant like that. But he won't find anything old that says something like that. I'd say to him, so if you can't do that, then every time Ibn Taymiyyah did it, he was wrong for doing it. And now if he were to say, I don't know that Ibn Taymiyyah did that, so just because you don't know doesn't mean he didn't. So he was wrong. So he says, I don't know. Okay, so listen, you're wrong. Put it this way. Let's put it that way. You're wrong here. Don't say that. Question 37. But what about when the Wahhabi said, if he can have hearing and sight, why can't he have face and hands? That's an important question. That's a frequent question. The answer is important. You said hearing and sight are not body parts. Correct answer. That's a correct answer. Or we can say in other words, hearing and sight are abstract nouns. Face and hands are concrete nouns. Concrete means physical. Abstract means not physical. Abstract means a meaning or a concept, conceptual. So hearing, sight, and all those attributes, all those confirmed attributes of Allah, they are all ma'ani. Ma'ani. That means they are meanings. They're not concrete. So what are they? Life, knowledge, will, power, sight, hearing, and speech, and everlastingness. None of those is a concrete noun. And not to mention his other attributes, existence, eternality, dissimilarity, independence, oneness. None of those attributes, not a single one of those words, is a concrete noun. So then here comes Wahhabi with face and hands and eyes and shin and the likes of that. He says, why can't you take these literally like you take those literally? The answer is because if you take them literally, you'll be confirming something physical. That means right there, created. Because physicality is created. The eternal one is not created. He doesn't have physicality. That means being made of particles, having dimensions, and the likes of that. This is not the case of the eternal one, the uncreated one. The Wahhabis is going to say in English, if he's talking in English. But Allah says he has face and hands, and even if he's an Arab and he's speaking to you in English, out of his dishonesty, he's going to say, Allah says, though, in the Qur'an, he has face and eyes and hands. I even encountered a Wahhabi, he said, and he lays down on the throne. That's the only one I ever heard say that. I heard with my own ear. Lay down. He said he lays down on the throne. So we're going to say, no, that's not in the Qur'an. He'll say, yes, in the Qur'an. Tell him, no, it's not in the Qur'an. So what will happen from here? What will happen from here is maybe he'll just, if he wants to insist that this is in the Qur'an, maybe he'll cite some English translations for you and say, Allah said, most merciful rose over the throne. Allah said, what stopped you from prostrating to what I created with my two hands, etc. You said, when they say, do you speak Arabic, and you say no, how can you respond this in the best way? Okay. So he says, do you speak Arabic? So let's say the answer is no. So you say no. Then what's he going to say after that? If that's the answer is no. Yani. The answer to the question is yes or no, right? And your ability to speak Arabic is not the issue. What you need is the proofs, not the ability to speak Arabic, and not the ability to understand Arabic. You just need the proofs. And this was our case when we first started. I mean, myself and others who have now picked up Arabic. But what was our case before we knew Arabic? Our case is that at least we memorized the proofs. So we knew, without knowing Arabic, we knew how to really say with our tongues though, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. We knew how to say, Inni dhahibun ila rabbi sayahdeen. So you have the proofs. And, subhanAllah, I have a story I told you, some of you before, if you maybe you heard. When I didn't know Arabic, and I talked to an Arab Wahhabi. And really, I was intimidated at the time. Probably this is something that helped me get over my intimidation. Maybe two things did. This maybe is one of them. Because I was like, oh, this guy's Arab. But I just stuck to the proofs that I knew. So what happened? He had previously committed blasphemy. I met him before. That's when he said Allah lays down on the throne. So then I met him another time. And he said salam to me. So I said, wa alaykum. He said, wa alaykum? Why wa alaykum? I said, because you said Allah lays down on the throne. So he said to me, do you know the saying of Allah? Ilayhi yas'adul kalimu tayyib. To him it means, the good words go up to him. So I knew it, but I cannot speak Arabic at this time. I said, yes, I know the ayah. He said, so how do you explain ilayhi to him? So I said to him, by this ayah, that Abraham said, Inni dhahibun ila rabbi sayahdeen. If you translate it literally, I am going to my Lord. he will guide me. And he wasn't going up. He was going to the Levant. This will come back, inshallah, when we get there. So what did he say? He didn't say anything. He shut his mouth. He literally shut his mouth and he put his head down. Nothing. That's an Arabic speaking Arab with all white and kufi and a long shirt too, just to throw some more intimidation on you when you're a novice here. And I didn't know how to speak Arabic. So he says to you, do you know Arabic even? If you want, you could say, as long as you have your proofs, you could just say, that doesn't matter. You can say yes or you can say no. If you know, you can say yes. If you, or whatever, or no. Maybe I will say to him, it doesn't even matter. And usually what's going to happen here, let's say I said to him, he says to me, well, do you even know Arabic? No, I know Arabic, mashallah. So let's say, though, I'll say to him, it doesn't matter. He's going to say, yeah, it matters. I need to know because I need to know if you even know what you're talking about. I'm not going to even tell him if I know Arabic or not. The whole time. Either he's going to figure out that I know Arabic, or I'll talk to him the whole time without exposing to him that I know how to speak Arabic. And I will never tell him I do. I will not answer this question for him because it doesn't have anything to do with the proof. If we get stuck right there, if he says, listen, I'm not going to continue this debate with you. You need to tell me yes or no. So, okay. Stop. Keep it pushing then. It's not an issue. It doesn't matter if I know how to speak Arabic or not. Here's the proof. Do you have an answer for this proof? Question 38. What if the Wahhabi says the meaning is the same, but the degree is different? Tell him that's blasphemy. You said, why can't he have a face or hand? I didn't finish, you think. Okay. Here's the question 37. But what about when the Wahhabi said, if he can have hearing and sight, why can't he have face and hands? So the answer is here. So if you want to say face and hands, those are concrete nouns. So if you're going to take that by literal meaning, it means you're confirming physicality for Allah. Those are not abstract. And if you confirm physicality for Allah, you confirm createdness for Him. Because that means being made of particles and having dimensions. So if he says, then what do these mean? Yeah, you're right. I got took off of there. Yeah. See how that goes though? So I got distracted there and I got taken off right there, right? That's how it goes most of the time when people debate. You have to stay focused. Don't let a person get you off. It's just going to take him to say just the right thing that's going to trigger you. When I say trigger you, I don't mean it's going to make you upset. When I say trigger you here, I mean it's going to take your eye off of your goal. It's going to catch your eye. You're talking to him. You're staying on point. He's trying to get you off point. If he says something, you can't let him take you off. Say that's something else. You say something else, you say, that's something else. Yeah. But he might. So you got to watch out for those. He just might find something that's going to take you off. And then now you went on a splinter. So that would be confirming physicality for Allah Ta'ala if you translate those literally. And that's impossible. So he says, what's in the Qur'an? Tell him it's not. Those English words are not in the Qur'an. Yeah, because we were saying he's an Arab. He might just, speaking to you in English, he might just, out of his dishonesty, say it's in the Qur'an that Allah has face and hands. Our Rabb says our Rabb says he has face, and he says he has eyes, and he says he has hands. Tell him, la, he doesn't say that. It's not in the Qur'an. That's what I'd say. No, it's not in the Qur'an. So now you might say, do you understand Arabic? I'll say it doesn't matter. So you say it does matter. So I say, no, it doesn't matter. And now, if he wants to get stuck there, I'll stick him right there. I'm not going to go forward here. It doesn't matter. You might as well forget this question. But that's me. You might take a different approach. You might just say, yes, I do. Or you might say, no, I don't. But I have the proofs. Well, I'm going to tell him it doesn't matter. You might as well go ahead and just forget this question. I'm not telling you yes or no because it doesn't matter. So let's say, okay, fine. You say it doesn't matter, fine. So I say, so what you claimed is not in the Qur'an. It's not in the Qur'an. So he might say, what's there? I would say, Qur'an's in Arabic. So he'll say, what does it mean then? Then I'd say to him, Allah knows what it means. But doesn't mean what you say it means. You're saying it means face and hands. Doesn't mean that. So then he might say, well, how would you translate it? It's another thing, you can't mix them. What does something mean and how do you translate it? You could easily mix those. He might say to you, how do you translate it then? So you're going to say, I'd say to him, I don't translate it. I don't translate it. Yad. Allah has an attribute called Yad, and an attribute called Ayn, and an attribute called Wajh, and an attribute called Istiwa, and they are not physical. They don't resemble the attributes of the creations. Allah knows what they mean. So, moving on here, question 38. What if the Wahhabi says the meaning is the same but the degree is different? Tell him that's blasphemy. Because saying the meaning is the same, that's enough to be blasphemy. When you say, but the degree is different, that doesn't save you from the blasphemy. That first part of your sentence is clear, explicit blasphemy. When you said the meaning is the same, it's kufr. You might say, what does it mean then? Then you could say to him, Allah knows what it means, but doesn't mean the same as when it's the attribute of the creation. What's wrong with you? That's blasphemy. If that's not comparing Allah to the creation, what do you think is comparing Allah to the creation? It's like he's saying comparing Allah to the creation is not even something. As if he's saying it's not even a real thing. It's just a word people use. In his mind, saying the meaning is the same doesn't mean he's like the creation. That's blasphemy. And you can quote الطحاوي ومن وصف الله بمعنى من معاني البشر فقد كفر. Anyone who describes Allah with a meaning that's a meaning for humans, then he blasphemed. Question 39. When we choose words, what are we doing differently from the Wahhabis? Well, when it comes to the Arabic words, we're going to say the words that came in the Qur'an and the words that the scholars used. So we're going to say, if we're talking in Arabic, we're going to say Allah is attributed with ilm, knowledge, and qudra, power, and irada, and will, and sama', hearing, and basar, and sight, and wujud, existence. If you say those in Arabic. And so then we might say in English, if you don't know the Arabic, let's say, you're going to say, he has power and knowledge and will. These are not concrete nouns, so there's no harm here. So he says, someone might say, but what about yad and ayn and wajh? So then we're going to use those words as they came in the Qur'an without translating them. Just leave them in the Qur'an like they came in the Qur'an. So what are the Wahhabis doing differently? So here, you need to consider the language barrier. Sometimes you're dealing with a Wahhabi in Arabic, and sometimes you're dealing with a Wahhabi in another language. When you're speaking another language, it's more clear. It's clearer. When you're speaking in Arabic, it's a little bit more obscure because you're using the exact same words now. If I'm talking in Arabic, I'm going to say Yad, Wajh, Ayn, Istiwa. And if the Wahhabi is talking in Arabic, he's going to say the same words. Yad, Wajh, Ayn, Istiwa. So what's the difference then? The difference that he's going to say Ala Zahiriha, by their apparent meanings. In Arabic, that's what he's going to say. So that's what exposes his belief. We're not going to say that. We're going to say, ala ma yaliku bih, according to a meaning that befits him, not by their apparent meanings. And if you're speaking in another language, then he's going to translate. So then he's going to say face, hands, eyes, rolls over. And we're going to say, our jama'ah, we're going to say, no, just leave it in Arabic. Yad, Ain, Wajh, Istiwa. These ones, don't translate them. So then it goes back to the other one. Why you translated those other ones? Because it's okay. Those are not concrete nouns. These ones, you can't just translate them face value. Leave them alone. Don't translate them. So that's what they do. That's what's different. They take them by their literal meanings. Even if they're not translating into another language, they say in Arabic, if they were just only talking in Arabic, they're still going to say ala zahiriha, by their apparent meanings. And they say la ta'wila fiha, there is no alternative explanation for them. And last question here, if we both verbally agree that Yad and Wajh are attributes, then how is there any debate? And the answer is what I just told you now. Because yes, they're saying Yad and Wajh in Arabic, but they say from themselves, not from the Qur'an and not from the Sunnah, they say without evidence, ala zahiriha, by their apparent meanings. That's their creed there. That's their tashbih. Ala zahiriha, the translation of that is ala aqidati tashbih, with the creed of God comparing. They'll say Yad, Wajh, as if they're saying Yad and Wajh and Ain with the creed of God comparing. But they don't say that. They say as they appear. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Allah knows best. Any question?